So right off the bat, we should probably address that this is not a horror movie. It's not a thriller, and it's not resembling anything that we typically talk about on the channel. So why are we covering this? Well, this is a Stephen King adaptation that is being helmed by director-writer Mike Flanagan, who typically takes on tons and tons of not only horror, but Stephen King adaptations that are horror. And, this is the first real thing that he's done outside of horror. And because Flanagan is so well regarded in the horror community, it kind of feels weird not to cover one of his projects.
Yeah, especially a Stephen King one.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I figured we might as well just talk about it really quick.
Yeah.
Give our thoughts, because I've covered every Flanagan thing on this channel, and I'm not stopping here. So a plot synopsis is going to be tough. I don't know what a trailer looked like to this film. I did not watch it.
No.
I avoided it. I wanted to go into this completely blind. I did know it was not horror or a thriller or anything like that. I knew it was more of a drama, and which I'm totally fine with. Obviously, one of the best Stephen King adaptation of all time, according to almost everybody, is The Shawshank Redemption, and that was a film that was done by a director, Frank Darabont, who had previously worked on other Stephen King projects, and even later worked on Stephen King projects, and most of them were horror, or at least like had some thrilling aspects, whatnot. But Shawshank is his most accomplished work working on Stephen King, and it was not horror. And here we go with Mike Flanagan, who's covered so many projects now with King, and even without him, he sometimes can't help but basically make a King adaptation. Look no further than Midnight Mass, essentially being his Salem's Lot, and it was sure as hell of a lot better than that HBO one we got recently. So, what I guess I'll just come out and say that I thought this was phenomenal. It's hard to rate it against other Flanagan projects, but I definitely say this is an A list. If you made or S list tier thing where you're putting his films in order of like quality or whatever, this is him at the height and the top of his game. This is as good as anything he's done. And that was great to see. And also, there's a ton of horror alums in here, just to kind of connect it to horror. Not only people that have worked with him previously on his horror projects, but even a couple other familiar faces from other things that I won't mention in case you didn't know.
Yes.
So, what did you think?
Yeah, I also thought this was just phenomenal. I think it's a pretty incredible film. I think that, I had no worry about Flanagan adapting Stephen King. I think he kind of just does it perfectly every time for me.
Yeah.
He's just so suited for like bringing King's universe to life on the screen. I think he just does such a great job at it. And I've really loved this. I thought it was fantastic. I think that it's a very like emotional human story, very relatable in so many ways, and just amazing acting from everyone.
Yeah.
So I quite loved this. I think it has it has a unique storytelling style to it. Not anything that you haven't seen before, but I think it works really well in this case. The way that the story is structured.
Yeah.
And some fantastic visuals, some really great, just things tie together so beautifully. And I know a lot of that is, obviously King's writing. He's just an amazing author in general and an amazing storyteller. But it just comes to life with Flanagan, I think.
I think one of the reasons that Flanagan has always been so successful at adapting King is that he does such great character work.
Yeah.
And if you've ever read a Stephen King novel, while the horror is definitely the backdrop and something that has been able to bring in a ton of readers over the years, and that's kind of his niche for the most part, He's been the king of horror. What he really is great at is he writes phenomenal characters.
Yeah.
Right? They're fully realized. No one ever feels one-dimensional. Everyone feels like a completely thought out and tangible, real person.
Yes.
And Flanagan is just so great at creating character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's a good writer who knows how to adapt things to the screen. Right? There is a medium shift that you have to account for. You know, when you do books, there is a certain style to the storytelling that just doesn't adapt perfectly to the screen. And Flanagan always comes up with these very clever ways to do workarounds and compromises and getting the heart of what the story is without really sacrificing much of anything.
Yeah, because even with King, like some of his movie adaptations that he writes the screenplay of, he's not really a good, in my opinion, I don't really like his screenplays. I don't like how he writes, how he adapts his stories for the screen. I don't think he has a good understanding of movies.
I don't think so either.
And that's true for some authors in general. Like, just because you can write a wonderful book doesn't mean that you can, then take that story and put it into something that can be, put on a screen for people to watch. So yeah, I think Flanagan's his screenwriting abilities and his direction are just like his major strong points.
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence is pretty clear that King, while a great writer, just doesn't seem to comprehend film in a way that I agree with anyway. You can look no further than his Maximum Overdrive movie that he wrote and directed, and then he sits there and trashes Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. It's kind of like, okay, right. So I rarely take what he says seriously when it comes to film, especially his adaptations. He always says something's terrific. It's the word he uses every time, no matter what the fuck it is.
I think he's probably, honestly, because if I was a writer and my stuff was being adapted, I think I would.
Like 250
I know,
adaptations.
But I just feel like
he's
just like he's just
but
like,
he shits on The Shining.
But that's, to be fair, that is like, there's a big change in The Shining. Not to go off topic, but like that's how many
adaptations he has that go way off?
You're
script?
Right. I don't know.
He thought The Dark Tower was terrific.
You're right. That's fair.
You want to talk about
That's
a
fair.
deviation from source material?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. If he thinks The Shining is a deviation, but he thinks The Dark Tower is terrific, oh boy.
I was just gonna say that he's just always excited when his stories get made into a movie or television series or anything.
I think The Shining I think The Shining is just extremely personal to him because
I do too.
It's about basically him. Anyways, moving on from that. If you guys do want to know a plot synopsis here, I will give it. It's very difficult to do so I'll try my best. I'll say this beforehand. I don't know how you guys are with movies that you go into blind. Some of you might just not ever. I know plenty of people who are like, I've never done that, and I have no interest in ever doing that, which is kind of wild to me because I'm the exact opposite. But even though I have no prior knowledge of the source material, even though I have no idea what this film's about in any way, shape, or form, just through a title, a poster, and that's basically it, I get an expectation of some sort. I write a mini story in my head of like what I think it's going to be. It's like a guess. It's an attempt. This is probably as far from what I thought this movie was going to be going into it as I think possible. Okay. So this is like minor-ish spoiler. So if you don't want to know anything about the film at all, go in. It's phenomenal. And hey, once again, guys, fuck. How many times do we have to say this on the channel? People constantly complain that they're not making anything original. That there's nothing in theaters that's unique and feels, like it has a soul, and it's all just product and being pushed onto the masses. It's all just IP drivel, whatever. There was one person in our theater besides us.
Yeah.
Literally one fucking person.
And this is a really
But then we'll go to the movies that everyone's like, who asked for this? And they're sold out.
Yeah, we'll go to the oh my god.
I mean, the Minecraft movie.
Sure, the
you
Minecraft
couldn't even get
movie.
A fucking seat to that thing for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, the other, oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting it, but the game adaptation movie that we saw recently.
Oh, Until Dawn?
Until Dawn, which people were like, kind of like, why are they doing this? But then also people were excited about it, but it was,
packed.
And it's different. Anyway, yeah, this movie is worth your time especially if you like Stephen King stories in general.
Yeah.
I think it is 1,000% worth your time. It is not horror, but
yeah,
I will say that there are some, like, kind of spooky-ish elements in it.
I actually thought the first third of this movie was pretty terrifying.
I did too. I think that the very first third is, like, you could very much argue it's like existential horror.
Yeah.
And then even throughout, kind of in, like the last segment and whatnot, there's some, like, horror-ish stuff in there, because King, like, really does tie in a lot of his, like, it's the King universe, right? Like, his stories are kind of all set in the same place, like in the same universe to an extent.
Yeah.
So there is an element in that I think you can be like, oh yes, that reminds me of this from other Stephen King stuff. But yeah, it's a no-brainer if you're a King fan, if you're a Flanagan fan, then like, yes, go check it out, please go support it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into the minor, I guess, spoilers now.
Yeah, one of the like, core elements, one of the recipes of a perfect Stephen King adaptation, and something that I feel like always is in one, is narration.
Yeah.
And this movie just feels very much like a Stephen King film, pretty much from the jump, because we get narration, and I was like, okay, like, I feel like I'm in King's verse now.
Yeah.
So, with Tom Hiddleston being the, like, Chuck character, and him on the poster, and all of the marketing is kind of just him from what I've seen. I haven't watched the trailer. I'll be super curious on what a trailer looks like, because I don't know how you market this without spoiling things. Regardless, I was genuinely shocked at how little Tom Hiddleston's in this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters in this.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a main character, but you kind of see them in various stages.
Yes.
So yes, Tom Hiddleston, I mean, he's kind of probably the biggest actor. He's the one that people would kind of go to see, like, if they didn't know.
Sure.
Like, it's just
the whole movie
the one
is
that you're
centered around his character.
Yes.
Without question.
Yes, exactly.
He's the most important character in the movie, no doubt about it. But I just thought this whole movie was him, and I thought it was like some science fiction, like, romp through different realities and stuff. Like, was I fucking wrong?
Yeah, this is not at all what
this is. Just the exploration of a man's life.
Yes.
Told in 3 different chapters in a non-linear fashion, starting from the end and working its way backwards. And the first third of it, you're really kind of left in the dark. And you'd have no idea what the hell's going on. And you start to kind of maybe piece it together. But I think that the reveal of what it is an incredibly worthwhile payoff. And I was so invested in everything. And I think that this is the type of film that can absolutely change someone's life. I think that they can watch this and actually have, like, an epiphany. I feel like this could legitimately, alter someone on a level that they, take it into the future, and it changes them at their core. This is one of those films that I think is why film exists, right? Because it is so human and it explores these questions. As somebody who constantly obsesses over every little thing, especially life, and the finality of it all, and that it's all coming to an end, and we're speeding towards our demise inevitably, and it's like, what's the fucking point? And it almost feels like a curse at times, because you can't help but look at the calendar or look at the fucking hours on the clock and think like, I wasted another hour of this life. It never feels like it's enough. It never feels like I can accomplish enough. It never feels like I am enough. And movies like this are really great at putting certain things into perspective for you, and really making you kind of like look more outwards, as opposed, to being so like inward with your thoughts, right? There's so much more than you. There's so much to you as well, which I think this movie is fantastic at really illustrating how special each human life is, but also kind of looking outward at how wonderful the universe is as a whole, and how lucky you are to be a part of it. So this film touched me very deeply, and this isn't a musical, but there is some extremely feel-good dance numbers that'll, if you have a heart, have you smiling and goosebumps and just feeling everything. You feel this film.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very like evocative and like visceral film in that sense. And yeah, I think like, just again kind of a testament to like King's storytelling, and just how he's able to really like verbalize a lot of, I don't want to say like life lessons, but just observations about life. And I think a lot of good writers are able to do that, where like, we have all these very universal human experiences that people, kind of can feel alone in going through, but great writers have a way of, making you feel seen and connecting with you, and like kind of connecting with everybody in that way. And so I think this movie does that really, really well, and I think the story does that really well. But yeah, I love all the dance numbers. I think those are amazing. There's this, just all the actors. I feel like everyone in this is just spectacular. There's a lot of Flanagan, repeat actors. I was gonna say like ones that you always see, which I love all of them. So like I'm always happy to see them pop up. And a cool cameo. It's wonderful. I don't know. We can't really say much else. If we haven't convinced you to go see it, then you're probably not going to go see it. But you should.
Yeah, some cool Easter eggs from other Stephen King stories. If you're looking around, you can spot them. But yeah, I could honestly see, somebody who's a little less mentally stable watching the first third of this movie and becoming quite upset and paranoid, and as I said, it's not horror, but man, there's an existential dread that can definitely wash over you, but then it's kind of replaced with a sense of awe and
like
wonder,
hope too,
and hope,
which is great.
Even though, despite this film is really, really devastatingly sad in a lot of its
but
material.
There's a lot of like, it is the kind of movie where there's like a beauty to the sadness too, which I really appreciate. I mean, I love watching all kinds of movies about different, I like when sadness just hurts and is like awful, of course. Like I think everyone can relate to that. But then there is also that other side of sadness, which is the beautiful part. And it's a very weird feeling and a very weird like dichotomy to have between like those two emotions. It's the kind of like, sunshine all the time makes a desert kind of a thing. Like, you sort of have to have the good and the bad in life to appreciate everything, kind of all together. And that's tough sometimes. But yeah.
So, Life of Chuck.
Yeah. Life of Chuck.
Go support it. Man, Flanagan needs a win. If we're ever going to get the Dark Tower,
please,
this
we
guy,
have to.
this guy needs a financial success, right?
I
Like
know.
his Doctor Sleep bombed. Midnight Club didn't do very well on Netflix, and Amazon is currently kind of putting him to the test with this Carrie series. And then he's got the Exorcist movie, and he's like, he's trying to get this Dark Tower thing working.
I want it so bad.
Yeah,
he's the man
revered.
for it.
He's revered.
Yes.
As a filmmaker.
He's
film fans.
Gotta be a fan favorite for film and Stephen King fans. Like, I would be very interested to hear of like a big Stephen King fan who doesn't like Flanagan's take. I think I would be interested to see what they would have to say, but I just can't.
All of them?
I can't imagine that's a
crazy.
majority. Because like he's just the perfect guy to do the Dark Tower.
He's the master.
He's
of
literally
King.
the perfect director. And,
Frank Darabont's the only person, and then Mick Garris is another one. Those are like the three main Stephen King directors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine anyone at this point, after how many wonderful adaptations. And I can't even sit here and name them all. There's so many at this point. He's done like 6 at least at this point. And to me, he's been successful, very successful on all of them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So,
yeah,
anyway.
he's easily one of my favorite directors today, for sure.
He's just so consistent.
He's so consistent, and I don't think I've seen any of his films that I've hated or disliked.
And he puts out shit so fast.
He really does.
Like, he gets
some
many
directors
things out.
Are like, some directors sit on stuff and they need more time to cook, so to speak.
I feel like
he's really productive.
Like, when was Hush? Hush was only, what was Hush? 2014, 2012? Like, what was Hush? Because that was like his, Oculus even. I saw Oculus here, and that's his second film. That movie can't be more than 15 some odd years old, and he has like 5 television series
all
and
of
like
this stuff
8
with Netflix,
films. And he does so much, and I feel like all of them, to varying degrees, are super successful.
Yeah, I think you're right that the Midnight Mass was, or not Midnight Mass, I'm sorry, the Midnight Club was probably the least like well received of everything. But I loved it.
Yeah, you did.
I loved it. I thought it was great. And I would love to go through like a rewatch of all of the Netflix Flanagan stuff because they're all just wonderful. But anyway, go watch it. Go watch Life of Chuck.
Support Mike Flanagan.
Go watch more Flanagan if you haven't seen all of his stuff yet.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed. If you like this and you haven't seen his other King stuff, go check that out.
We have so many King adaptation things coming out. We just got a trailer for The Institute. We have the Carrie TV series coming out. Stephen King adaptations will continue on
endlessly.
Forever and ever.
Not only does he have all these classics that are just like, the horror classics, but he writes like a new book. Like, I feel like he's always releasing a new book. I feel like I haven't even touched like his written work. I've read stuff of his, but there are so many books of his that I haven't even touched and gotten near. So
he's been on an obsessive kick writing like the same character for quite a few books now, which seems to be upsetting his fans. They're like, I'm tired of this Holly character.
But he's kind of like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna write what I want. Which like
he supposedly has like 50 books or something that
crazy.
he hasn't even published. That are like sitting in his fucking house, like unpublished. So even after he dies, he's gonna be like Tupac, and he's gonna have a new album released every few years, and he'll be like, "How many books does this guy still have?" He'll probably, his books will continue to keep releasing like new ones after I'm dead.
I know. Yeah, he's one of those writers that is just like the muse is always with him. Like he can just churn them out, and yeah.
He doesn't know how to end a book though. And he's even admitted that.
Yeah, and I agree endings with him. Are hard.
He does not know how to end books. Every time I get to the end of a book, read fucking Under the Dome, and you'll be like, that's the ending you went with. What the fuck are you doing? But the character stuff is so great. Anyways, that's that.
All right.
Anything more?
That's it.
Not just because I said that's that.
No,
You got anything?
No, that's that.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, yeah, get out there, support this, and tell us what your favorite Stephen King adaptation is, and what has yet to be adapted
that you want to
see adapted.
Short story, novel, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that because they already did Desperation. I would love a Desperation Regulators like double feature type of film thing come out where they actually like really make it well, because that Desperation TV movie with Ron Perlman is not good. But so that's like, it's already been adapted once, but it did not get adapted with its counterpart. I guess like Talisman, Black House, that kind of stuff would be cool. Eyes of the Dragon.
Things that I've read, and I know it's already been adapted with one movie, but The Dark Tower is
that's
the main thing.
That's the most obvious.
I know, but that's
the most
again,
obvious.
Like I haven't read enough.
You're right, that hasn't been adapted.
I think all of the King that I've read has been adapted. I don't think I've read anything that hasn't been adapted.
I've read a few.
Except maybe some of the short stories.
I read Revival, which has an adaptation coming. Supposedly we're getting one of those. I've read a few. Yeah, but I just feel like you're right. I feel like The Dark Tower, it's hard to even say that was an adaptation. So
yeah, exactly.
I agree. Of course. And, I want to see the drawing of the three in the wastelands so bad. Anyway, that's that.
And the Dairy TV show comes out this year. So.
And so many others.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. There's your 30-minute long
Life of Chuck non-horror movie.
Non-horror. Fuck. And we're cutting ourselves short.
Yeah, we are. We could go on more.
Yes.
But we're just talking about King at this point, so.
We're gonna go dance.
Bye.
Bye.